Talk 1470. WNN.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Are you a family caregiver? Are you caregiving for someone who can no longer take care of themselves? Are you overwhelmed? This is Caregiver Solutions Info with Marcia Teal. Marcia will be hosting an hour of true stories and information, tips and updates of the latest research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marcia has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden Courts, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marcia covers everything you need to know as a family caregiver, especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marcia Teal, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Caregiver Solutions Info. I'm so glad that you're here today. We have another wonderful program. We are live out of Boca Raton, Florida, and this program is for family caregivers, people that care for others who cannot care for themselves, especially if the person has some form of dementia like Alzheimer's. So I'm so glad that you're here. We have two experts in the field of care management today. So you might say, care management, I really don't understand what that is, or maybe you've never had to, investigate it before. So today is all about care management, the who, what, where, when, and why of care management. So my guest today, I'm very happy to introduce to you. We have two wonderful ladies here. I've known them for many, many years, and they are experts in their field. They are with VIP Care Management. First, we have Sonia Coburn. She's a geriatric care manager. She's the founder and currently the president of VIP Care Management. And also with us is Shelby Coburn, and she is also with VIP Care Management, and she's Vice President and Director of Community Outreach. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you, Marcia.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
We're very glad to be here today.
I'm excited because, care management is something that really helps a lot of people, but if caregivers are new to caregiving, maybe they've never heard about it before. And so this show really gives a lot of great advice from experts in their field. So caregivers can plan, and I think it's all about planning. We always say that caregivers need to plan, be ahead, be one step ahead if possible. The caregiving journey is very unpredictable, to say the least.
Absolutely.
And we need professionals in the field that are on our team. And you guys can be part of someone's team, so we're going to talk about that today. So the first thing I want to share with everybody, care management. Obviously, it means managing care, but we want to find out the who, what, whys, whens, and where of all this. So we're going to be talking about all of this today. But in simple terms, Sonia, you're a geriatric care manager, and you plan care, and you're a care manager. What does that mean?
Well, the term geriatric care manager has become very broad. Essentially, a care manager is a personal advocate who does not have any sort of agenda if you're going to choose a facility, if you're going to choose a home care company or any other kind of help service. They are there for you and only for you. And the main thing that a care manager does is listen to what all the problems may be, identify problems, and come up with proactive plans to prevent problems, to address problems, and to be a problem solver in general. But proactivity is such a wonderful thing if you can have the pleasure of meeting someone before there's a crisis.
There you go. That's very important. So you're a geriatric care manager. How long have you been in this field and doing this particular service for people?
Well, 1993 is when we opened VIP Care Management. It's a family-owned business, and we have other employees who have been with us a very long time as well. But we've seen a lot, but I have to tell you, we still learn something new almost every day. There's so much to know about helping seniors and their families.
And things are always changing. You know, rules are changing, policies are changing, hospital regulations, and just so many things are changing. Somebody needs to be, you know, on top of it. And I think,
That's right.
you know, having a care manager is a good thing, because I have known a lot of caregivers over the years, the ones that didn't utilize a care manager and others that did. Big difference in quality of care. Just big difference, only because they didn't know what they didn't know.
That's right. I always say what you don't know about elder care will cost you. If you can get some education and some awareness up front, you can save yourself a lot of money and a lot of heartache as well.
Okay, so care management. So we know what it is. It's basically managing care and helping to manage care of an individual, either because they don't have someone to do it, or partnering with maybe a family caregiver. So there's but two scenarios. So there are people that need care management because they have nobody, right?
Absolutely. When people have no one, maybe they've outlived everyone, maybe they just never had a family, they need someone who's going to be in their corner that they can call if they have questions, or who can just handle everything for them, from paying bills to visiting them if they go to the hospital, to helping them make very important life care decisions. That's what a care manager can do for someone who doesn't have anyone. But we also work with people who have family. Some of their families might be out of state, and they need us to be their eyes and ears. They need us to be the quarterback for everything that they need to do to help mom or dad. And then we have families who are local, but they can't do everything that is required because they are working, or they may have their own health issues, or they just don't know what to do.
So it sounds like care management could really be for anyone entering into their part of their life where things are getting more difficult, their health is declining, you know, their physical and mental challenges. So it really can be for just about anybody that needs help.
Sure. Well, sure. We actually work with people of all ages, although predominantly we work with seniors.
Yeah, especially down here in South Florida, we have a bunch of those, and you know, they are always, you know, aging, and as they age, things start changing. Matter of fact, we're back in our home studio today. Last couple weeks, I was on location over near Clearwater, Florida, and I happened to talk to a lady on the phone who called over there, and she was looking for something for herself, for an assisted living, and she did not have memory problems, so she said, but we don't know, because, you know, sometimes people are really good on the phone and they can hide those kinds of things.
Right.
But she needed a regular assisted living. That's what she was looking for. And, of course, she had called Arden Courts, and we're memory care only, so I'm trying to direct her and help her to what she needs to know and what she needs to ask, because she was just going down a list, calling people and saying, hi, what's your price? And I felt so bad for her, you know, and I said, well, who are you calling about? And she goes, for me. And I said, well, what's going on in your life that you are calling for help? And she said, well, I don't want to be alone anymore.
Wow.
And I felt sorry for her. She was in her 80s, and she didn't have anybody, and she didn't want to live alone anymore for whatever reason. She was afraid. She wanted the company, you know, who knows. So she was just picking up the phone and making a phone call. And I said, well, you know, Dorothy, I said, first of all, you don't want to pick up the phone and call a list of places and just ask them the price. And she goes, well, what do I do? And so I gave her some helpful hints, but I also suggested that she contact a geriatric care manager in her area, and I gave her several choices so that she could have somebody to to help her to make these phone calls, that somebody that would already know the system and would know the area. So I know exactly what you're dealing with, because there's so many people out there that don't even know that care managers exist.
They don't. And, you know, in the example of trying to find an assisted living, someone hands a person a directory, and there are hundreds of assisted livings, and they think they're all equal. But really, every facility has its own niche. It has its own customer base, its own culture.
Its own pros and cons.
And its own price point, because there's a very large range between prices. And that's where a care manager who knows all the buildings, we've interviewed every assisted living in Palm Beach County, and we can tell you just about everything about everywhere. And we do that because we want to be that point person who can help the senior tour 3 places that we already know are appropriate for them, so that when they're making a choice, it's in their price range, it's in the community they want to be, the care level is what they need, and now they're not overwhelmed. Because nothing's more overwhelming than touring a building that is not for you.
That's right. Like this lady, Dorothy. I mean, I know she was overwhelmed and she was lost. She didn't know what to do. And so I tried to point her in the right direction. But we're talking today about care management. We're going to go to our first commercial break. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help, because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides.
Hi, I'm Michael Mole, owner of Senior Helpers of South.
The inability to recognize the obvious often occurs with Alzheimer's, particularly among the family members who care for them. When the time comes for you to decide that someone you love needs more help than you can give, will you be able to recognize it? Don't wait for a crisis to make the decision for you. Talk to us. We know. We understand. We can help. Arden Courts.
Solutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
We are back, and we're talking today about care management. And with us today, 2 wonderful ladies from VIP Care Management, Shelby Cobran and Sonia Cobran. And we're talking about things that people need to know, because it's a big world out there when you're trying to navigate healthcare, hospitals, assisted livings, information that maybe you just didn't even know you needed to know. So we've been talking to these lovely ladies who have a lot of experience. So I want to get Shelby in on this conversation. So Shelby, your position is part of community outreach. You're the marketing community outreach as vice president for VIP Care Management. So when you're out in the community, do you actually visit the hospitals, and what happens when you might have a client that's in the hospital? What happens?
Yeah, absolutely. If we find that one of our clients has wound up in the hospital, I will go and check on them, make sure they're okay, they're not feeling alone, and make sure that the case managers have a point of contact if there's no family involved or anybody who's nearby to help out. So, yeah, come in, check on them, make sure everybody knows that we're here and that if anything needs to get done, we're going to be the first people to jump on it.
So you are talking to not only the social workers at the hospital or the discharge planners, letting them know that you're an advocate basically for this person in the hospital,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, and a resource to them as well. I know what buildings have rooms available, what buildings are appropriate, which ones can take trachs and vents and all these tricky things. So they really rely on me quite a bit for some of their discharges. That can be a little bit more complicated.
So when someone is getting ready to be discharged finally from the hospital, there's usually a transition period. Maybe they're going from the hospital to a rehab. Maybe they're going from the hospital back home. Maybe they're going from the hospital back to their senior community, where they're residing, like in a 55 plus or an assisted living or independent living. Do you follow them, or how does that work? Because I know that a lot of concern of hospital discharge planners worry about a person leaving the hospital. They don't want to see that person back because now there's some rules that the hospitals kind of get dinged financially if a person returns to the hospital too soon. How can you help in that situation?
Yeah, it's great that you mentioned that, because it's not necessarily new, this transitional care program, but they are starting to realize what are the barriers in the community. And I think one of the things that has been identified is the lack of a responsible party to communicate to all of the vendors that a person might be using. And
what do you mean by that?
So sometimes you might be discharged home with a home health care provider and also some prescriptions, but who's going to fill those prescriptions, and who's going to make sure that the patient took them, and who's going to make sure they get to their follow-up doctor's appointment? And if there is not a responsible person in place, and the doctor, the discharge planner, the pharmacy, everybody knows who that person is, it's really easy for this person to get lost in the system and not quite make it to those follow-up appointments and then end up back in the hospital. So for the community to recognize that one of the barriers is not having a point person or a care manager or an involved adult child, to acknowledge that and to understand that that's what we're missing, is to bring awareness to it.
So nobody will fall through the cracks.
Right, exactly.
Basically, to let everybody know you're there to do whatever is needed to help that person get home safely, stay home safely, all of that.
Yeah, say the home health care provider didn't show up, the care manager will know because they're following up, or the child might know. So, yeah, the transitional care program is missing some of those elements, but having a care manager involved will definitely keep you from falling through the cracks.
So it sounds like you're a problem solver or a puzzle solver, because you're fitting together pieces of the puzzle in someone's total care, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have a very holistic approach to what we do. We're not just looking at the medical portion, which is what the hospital case managers are looking at. We're looking at, is the home clean and ready for this person to come home to? With is it sanitized? Was there a big problem right before the person went to the hospital that needs to be fixed before that person comes home, such as bugs or whatever could happen? We're there to fix every problem, and we're very proactive. That's where the experience comes in. If you have seen so many cases before, you know what could happen, so you're on the lookout to prevent problems.
Yep.
So an example might be if somebody gets discharged from the hospital, maybe they need to be in a wheelchair. What if their house doesn't have wheelchair ramps, or they can't get into the house? Is that something that you could help solve that problem?
Absolutely. Maybe the person was found on the floor after 4 days, and the house needs to be completely cleaned. There needs to be food purchased. There needs to be the drugs filled, as Shelby mentioned. There are so many reasons why that person may have been on the floor for 3 days that need to be addressed as well. Maybe they don't take their medication. So we're looking at everything: financial, housing, psychological, care, the pets, everything.
So that's perfect, because my next question is, how do you know what needs to be done? Which leads me to ask you about assessments, right? So in order for you to help somebody, you have to find out what their needs are. So tell me about assessments and how are they done?
The geriatric assessments that we do are based after years and years, 26 years of experience in working with families and seeing all the things that have gone wrong. So what we have is an assessment tool that looks at everything. Do you have a power of attorney and a healthcare surrogate? Do you have advance directives? Who's paying the bills? Every question that one can think of, we've got a question for you. And then we look and see what needs to be addressed. And is the client willing to let us address those things? Some things the client does not want to deal with. So we have to take direction from our clients, even though we feel that we know best. You know, you can never truly know best for an individual. We have to listen. Listening is the most important thing.
Absolutely. So you partner with them, except for probably the case where you're dealing with someone who has a diagnosis of dementia, and then there probably is no reasoning with that person. So in that case, you would probably then go to their designated power of attorney, healthcare surrogate, and then you would interview them about this person.
Exactly.
Okay.
We have a caller that called into our office today. It's a very sad case. The woman has designated her daughter to be power of attorney and healthcare surrogate, but her daughter lives in another area, far away. A church member moved into this lady's home, but has taken over everything. She has taken over the finances, became power of attorney without anybody knowing about it, put the house up for sale.
Wow.
I mean, there is so much. And so today the police went in with Department of Children and Families, and so now we'll be working with them to help the daughter become the legal guardian, because mom does have dementia, but the daughter didn't recognize it. Isn't that common?
Yes, very much so. The daughter probably saw mom a few times a year.
Exactly.
And just like we talked about a few minutes ago, people can cover up. And, you know, Mom, hi, it's Sally. How are you? And Mom says, I'm fine. And Sally says, you know, what are you doing? What's going on? And Mom tells her all these stories. And Sally believes, because she lives thousands of miles away. And Sally has no idea that Mom hasn't gone to the grocery store or hasn't eaten proper food in a long, long time.
Right. Sally says, what'd you have for breakfast today? And Mom says, bacon and eggs and toast. And Sally goes, yay, everything's great, you know.
Yeah.
It's not great
And,
oftentimes.
and we see that all the time, and I'm sure you do too. So I think having a care manager involved, especially in a case like this, where adult children, you know, may be the responsible party, but they're not here.
No, and even if they were completely involved to the best of their ability, they're still not professionals in our field. They don't know what they're looking at. That's where the community education and the awareness, the things that you're talking about on your show, help to educate people. They have no idea.
Yeah, they come into town. Sometimes, you know, they don't have a lot of time. They're working. They have to take some time off from work to fly down to Florida, wherever, and take care of things. And they're in a big rush because they've got a family back home, you know, maybe 3 kids and 5 dogs and a job, and they don't have the time. And I hear that all the time with adult children. I don't have the time, you know, and they come down and sometimes they make rash decisions without doing the proper homework, right? And sometimes those are mistakes, actually. I mean, when I was over in Largo, there was a lady who came to see me that same thing happened with her. She was out of state and had to come in and move her dad from a regular assisted living into a memory care because he was no longer appropriate. He was doing things that very inappropriate behavior, which means he needed to go into a safer environment with extra care, another level of care. And the daughter had just moved him into the first place that she found because she had to get back to home. And when I saw her, she was just a mess and blamed herself, which was one of the worst things, because she put Dad in a place that he did not get proper care, proper attention, and she was beside herself.
And probably lost money in a deposit as well. I have a client I'm working with right now. The parents were very private. They didn't believe in sharing anything financial or anything with their kids all these years. So the father goes to the hospital, and the son, being a good son, living right down the street, by the way, decides he's going to invite Mom to live with him for the short time that Dad would be in the hospital. It did not turn out to be a short time. And once Mom moved in with the son realized the mom's dementia was so bad that she could not be left alone. So he took a family medical leave, and he still has not been back to work. We've been trying, and we just accomplished it today, to find a facility that would accept Mom and Dad together in the same room on Medicaid, and even though they have very different physical needs, very different physical needs.
And that's a tall order. I mean, there's a lot of intricate details there that have to be worked out.
To be honest, it took 3 of my employees working for 3 days straight to make this happen. It's a big job.
And it's very difficult for family members to understand how to convey all of those needs to a nursing facility. They might just think, we just need you to take her, you know?
Yeah, you to take her and do whatever you have to do, right?
And I mean, there's so much more. There's so many documents that the facility's going to need. There's so much that really needs to be planned out, and they need to be aware of before making big transitional steps like this.
Yeah.
And it's so important to have a physician that cares about you, because when you need to make an urgent move and the physician has to sign the papers, but you have a physician that doesn't give you the time of day, that's the one stumbling block you're going to have to making a very quick, new plan. And so I would say to anyone listening today, if you have a physician who is not a good partner to you in your care, get rid of them today so that you can replace them with a very cooperative, caring physician who will help you in the future.
Just like you said earlier, that not every senior community is alike, all the primary care physicians out there are also not the same. And there are some that are just overwhelmed and too busy.
Sure.
And even though they may care, they don't have the time to care and to provide what resources these families need. And I think that's a great piece of advice, because if you change now into a doctor that you can establish a relationship with, and they know you, they need to know you. So not just switch, but go and have some time with them and get your medical records and all of that, and meet them face to face so they know you, so that, God forbid, if you end up in the hospital, they know who you are.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's a great piece of advice.
You had mentioned in the very beginning about a team. And what a care manager does is to help a family or a client build their team of it takes a village to raise a child, and it takes a village to take care of an elder too. So your team members are your facilities, your home care companies, your physicians. It's everyone in this community that we call the elder care community that have to cooperate. And if you have a bad actor, you have someone who doesn't care, or they're only out for their own profit, they need to be known, and you need to never do business with them. And that's what the care managers know. They know who are good in the community.
Yeah,
they have the right heart for this job.
So you can pick the perfect team players.
That's right.
Love that, love that. So we're going to take our commercial break, but we'll be back with more from VIP Care Management. Stay tuned.
The inability to recognize the obvious often occurs with Alzheimer's, particularly among the family members who care for them. When the time comes for you to decide that someone you love needs more help than you can give, will you be able to recognize it? Don't wait for a crisis to make the decision for you. Talk to us. We know. We understand. We can help. Arden Courts. Wandering is a common problem for people with Alzheimer's or related dementias. It's also a problem for family members who care for them. Keeping them safe and secure means never letting your guard down. And even though deep down you know it's time, it hurts to have to ask for help. But it could hurt them even more if you didn't. We know. We understand. We can help. Arden Courts. Feelings of depression, isolation, and frustration are common among persons living with Alzheimer's or related dementias. It's common among those who care for them, too. It takes a lot of patience and courage. It also takes knowing when you can no longer do it alone. At Arden Courts, memory care is all we do. Talk to us. We know. We understand. We can help. Don't let guilt keep you from making the right decision. Visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines.
Question or wish to share a story? Call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
We are back, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our national sponsor, Arden Courts Memory Care Communities. Arden Courts has about 50 communities all across the United States, and 10 of them right here in Florida. Arden Courts is a leader in dementia care, Alzheimer's, vascular dementia. Doesn't matter what makes the memory loss. It doesn't matter because it's memory loss and people need help and caregivers need help. And so one of the ways that Arden Courts would like to help you, the family caregiver, is to give you this free book. It's called The 36-Hour Day. It's a wonderful resource for caregivers. If you don't have it, I would highly recommend you calling to get your free book today. All you have to do is call their toll-free number, which is 888-478-2410. That's 888-478-2410. Tell them that you heard about the offer on the Caregiver Solutions Info program, and they'll make sure they get your information and mail a book directly to you. You'll be really glad that you did. It's full of all kinds of tips and definitions and specifically written for caregivers of people with dementia. So call. My guests today are Sonia Coburn and Shelby Coburn from VIP Care Management. We're talking about all things care management. This is really good stuff, ladies. I enjoy speaking with you and helping to inform our listeners, our caregivers, about what care management does and can do to help families. So, Shelby, I wanted to ask you, I know that, we just talked about transitioning people to home or back to wherever they were living from the hospital, which is very, very important. And we're talking about quality of life, how a care manager can improve someone's quality of life as they're aging and going through a hard time. What are some of the other ways that a care manager, maybe more specifically you, because I know you have some wonderful stories to tell, improves quality of life to support that person out there that maybe they don't have a big support system?
Sure, yeah. Although I'm in marketing and community outreach, I do have some special clients, and they are my clients because I've developed a really strong connection with them. And one of the things that I really love that care managers do is we're advocates, but we're also a social, therapeutic person for our clients. And I have a wonderful client down in Miami who is a quadriplegic on a trach. He cannot speak, he cannot move.
Oh, wow.
But we have developed the most beautiful connection, and we meditate together. I draw pictures of him. I tell him about things that are going on in my life, and he has the most amazing smile, and the way that he lights up when we talk, and the way that he kind of just lets me know that just sitting here with him is enough. It's so heartwarming, and it's such a beautiful connection to share. And the facility that he's in takes such good care of him, but for them to know that I'm coming in to see him too, and that he has me there, lets everybody know that this is a team effort. We're all working together to make this man's life meaningful.
Wow,
and
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful. I know that some people don't have family, or their family is too far away to visit, and so it's really important to have someone by your side that truly cares and can, put out that little extra TLC, right?
Exactly. It is TLC. It's love. And that's how I feel for my clients, the two that I go and see in Miami. I mean, I really do love them.
Well,
So
that's wonderful. That's important. I mean, we're talking about care, and part of care is caring. Really.
Some people forget that.
Yeah, it's not just about making sure someone eats and helping them dress and getting them to the bathroom. It's really caring about who they are and what they're all about and what their social needs are. Just like your visitations are wonderful. So, Sonia, going back to caring, there has to be a plan, right? Because a lot of times I know you step in emergencies and you've got to take care of things as emergencies come up.
That's right.
But if people plan, we always push plan ahead, that can a lot of times prevent emergencies, or if there still is a mishap or an emergency, at least you have a plan. So how can a care manager help a person or a family plan for the future?
Well, the plan is divided into categories. There might be a plan for how are we going to pay the bill, how are we going to apply for government benefits, how are we going to select and manage a caregiver, or select and oversee a placement into an assisted living. So there are many different categories that we're looking at. Once we identify a problem as a geriatric care manager, I see certain problems. The family or the client has to agree with me that this is a problem. If they don't feel it's a problem, it's not up to me to solve it, but hopefully we're all on the same page, and that I can be that crystal ball for them. I can look into the future and say, yes, what we're doing today is great. It's probably only going to last for about a year, and then we're going to have to make another move. For instance, in the example of keeping someone at home a little longer, which is always what the children want, right? And they really want to honor dad's wishes to stay at home, etc. But that I see the future. I can tell. And so I help prepare them both mentally and financially and government benefit-wise for that next step, and let them know what they need to do. For instance, start to keep good records now. If the bank statements are coming in, don't throw them away. These are all the things that we need for the future, let's say applying for Medicaid or veteran benefits. So our job is to be the proactive visionary and help them follow our plan. Exactly.
Right. So what's the average length of time that you manage care for an individual? Is there an average time?
Yes, it's about 6 years.
Is that right?
Yes.
That's a long time.
It's a very long time. I've had clients for 12 years that are still with me. We work with clients also on a project basis. Let's say they just want help being placed in a facility, and that's fine with us. We'll do whatever is required. We do as little or as much as required. But many times they're coming back to us throughout the years because changes are happening. Maybe mom is starting to act out. They don't know what to do. Maybe the current facility wants mom to move. So, we're there throughout the process, forever.
So it sounds like a person that needs some help can hire a care manager, but they don't have to have them necessarily continuous. They can ask you for help for something, and then they're fine, and then maybe months or years later down the road, call you back up and ask you for some other help.
Sure. And we work with people, time and time again as needed. So we are their resource. We're the one to call. They know where to turn. And if we do our job well, we can solve a crisis and back out for a while.
Yeah. So does Medicare pay for care management services?
No.
And I know that people want to know that.
we get that question all the time.
I figured you did, but I wanted to ask you so you can let everybody know, because again, until you're in that situation, until you might need this, you don't know what's covered, what's not covered. So if Medicare doesn't cover it, how does someone pay?
Well, first you have to understand that today everyone is calling themselves a care manager, and that to me is very disturbing. You might have a care manager from an insurance company. They are not a care manager. They are managing to make sure you're getting as little care as possible and not having to cost so much money to the insurance company.
Because they're trying to kick you out of the hospital
Yes.
because that's the insurance
That
part
is
of
not
it.
a real care manager.
Okay.
That is a gatekeeper. Okay, so in the true sense of the word of what is a care managers generally are fee for service. In other words, you pay private. I'll tell you our prices because they haven't changed for 12 years, $125 an hour. And we base our time on 15-minute segments because many of the things that we do take less than 15 minutes. I can accomplish a lot on the phone, on a fax, on an email, and the actual judges that manage the guardianship court feel that that is the way guardians should charge, on the 15-minute increment. That's what we do.
Okay, well, that's good to know because, people have to budget. And like you say, they have to plan for all of these things. And if you're thinking that this might be something good for you or for your elderly parents, again, this is all information to write down now, get all your facts together, get all your information together so that when the time comes, you'll know who to call, when to call,
what it will cost.
And what it will cost and what questions to ask. There's so much to know.
We do a financial cost of care analysis, too, to help project the finances. If Dad only has $50,000, that sounds like a lot. But if he's got private caregivers, that's not a lot. Mm-hmm. That's about a year's worth of care. Then what? So these are the things that families have no idea. And also, when it comes to home health, there's a huge range. There are companies for $15 an hour. There are companies for $25 an hour.
Right. So a lot of variables that go in with this. So again, it's all about planning and knowing the information. So this is really good. Mm-hmm. So we're going to take our last break, but we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
The inability to recognize the obvious often occurs with Alzheimer's, particularly among the family members who care for them. When the time comes for you to decide that someone you love needs more help than you can give, will you be able to recognize it? Don't wait for a crisis to make the decision for you. Talk to us. We know. We understand. We can help. Arden Courts. Wandering is a common problem for people with Alzheimer's or related dementias. It's also a problem for family members who care for them. Keeping them safe and secure means never letting your guard down. And even though deep down you know it's time, it hurts to have to ask for help. But it could hurt them even more if you didn't. We know. We understand. We can help. Arden Courts. Feelings of depression, isolation, and frustration are common among persons living with Alzheimer's or related dementias. It's common among those who care for them, too. It takes a lot of patience and courage. It also takes knowing when you can no longer do it alone. At Arden Courts, memory care is all we do. Talk to us. We know. We understand. We can help. Don't let guilt keep you from making the right decision. Visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines. Somewhere at the corner of bewildered and confused is a lost mother, a father, a sibling, a grandparent. Wandering is a common symptom of Alzheimer's or related dementias and can often make those who care for a loved one feel just as lost. If you're looking for a place that's safe and secure, look to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know. We understand. We can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines. Somewhere at the corner of bewildered and confused is a lost mother, a father, a sibling, a grandparent.
And talk with Marcia.
Wandering is a common symptom
back to
of
CareGiver
Alzheimer's or related
Solutions.
dementias and can often make those who care for
Welcome back.
one
We
feel
are
just as
talking
lost.
about care
If you-
management services, and my guests today are from VIP Care Management here in South Florida. So there are a lot of things to know when it comes to care management, and one of the things that I wanted to ask you, Sonia, is other services, because we talked about care planning and what happens in an emergency, but there are other things that you do that a lot of people may not know. What are some of the extra services that you all can provide as care managers?
A lot of the extra services that families ask for are financial in nature. Sorting through volumes of paper and helping them get their bills in order, and helping them get solicitors to stop calling them. Right now, I'm going through a large file to help someone see if their home care company charged them more than they should have, and comparing it to their insurance payments. This is almost like forensic accounting in a way, but we do whatever it takes to help someone get their finances in order. This is something that's very unique to our practice, actually, is the financial piece.
And does someone sometimes have to sell their home? Like, say if they need the money and they're going to go live in an assisted living, but they have a home they need to sell to help pay. Is that something you can help with?
Absolutely. We actually have a real estate division, South Florida Real Estate Connection, and most people moving into facilities need to liquidate their home to either afford it, or also because if they're going on Medicaid doesn't allow them to pay for the home. They allow them to keep it, but they don't allow them to continue to pay. So we can get the best prices for quality interiors and the home, and if things need to be donated, then we do that as well.
And cleaning up and taking care of all the stuff, right?
We do the clean out, and even a hoarding scenario. We help with hoarders.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, I've heard some horrible stories about that. There's a lot of things, and so that leads me to go back to Shelby, because I understand that if people really want to know more about all that we're talking about, you have something unique at your office called a resource library. Tell us about that.
Yes, we do. It's in Lantana. It's right near Federal, next to the Station House restaurant, and it is the Elder Care Resource Library. And what it is open to the public. It's free to the public. You can come in, you can peruse, have a cup of coffee, talk to us, ask us some questions. And what you're going to find in there is all of our favorite nursing homes, assisted living facilities, senior resources, attorneys, doctors, everything you can imagine that a senior might need. We have their information in the office, and we're going to provide it to the community for free.
Wow, it's like a one-stop shop to go in and get all of this different information.
Yeah.
Wow. And does someone have to make an appointment to come in, or is it open like every day? Or
we open the library from 10 to 5. That way we have an hour in the morning to kind of get situated. But we always welcome the public in to come in and take what they need.
All right. And then they can meet you all at the same time and ask questions?
Yep.
Wow, that's really good.
Yeah, we'll definitely spend maybe 20 minutes or 30 minutes on a free consultation, either on the phone or in the library.
That's really good, because how does somebody know they're going to click with a certain care manager? I think it's important, like we talked about, if you like your doctor and you click with your doctor and you have a great relationship, it seems to me it would be important to have that same relationship with a care manager, somebody that you click with, somebody that you feel comfortable with, that you can trust. So if they can come in and meet you all and have some time to do a sit down with you for a few minutes, I think that is wonderful.
It is quite nice. Our conference room sometimes turns into a little bit of a living room with some of our clients. It's really nice.
Wow.
And we'd like for them to come by even after they're a client and visit with us periodically. I think that what's unique about what we do, and what I think a lot of care managers do, is we have a team. Because even though you have one care manager and you have that relationship, you should also know some other care managers on the team in case that care manager is unavailable and you need them. So all of our clients are team managed, but they have one lead care manager.
Well, that's smart, because what if somebody went on a cruise, because care managers are allowed to take vacations too, right?
And they want to keep their sanity, yes.
Yeah, and maybe there's an urgent situation, so it's good that your client knows more than one person that knows about their case and can step right in and take care of it.
So important.
Yeah.
You have to feel like you're not left in a lurch because your care manager is with another client or on a cruise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's very important.
That would be very important. Just like when a home health person doesn't show up, if they didn't have a care manager or somebody on top of it, that person's going to be left alone and in the home or whatever, and you wouldn't know necessarily to check on that all the time. And I mean that happens a lot too, so it's really important. So Shelby, if somebody wanted to call or come, the address, the phone number, do you have a website?
Absolutely. Our website is www.vipcaremanagement.com. Our phone number is 561-588-5151. And we are located in Lantana, 401 West Lantana Road, Suite 3. Can't miss the Elder Care Resource Library sign. And that's Lantana, Florida, 33462.
Okay, give your phone number one more time.
Sure. 561-588-5151.
Well, you all have been awesome guests. There's so much more that we could talk about because, it's only an hour and there's so many questions. So I encourage you all, if you're listening today and you have other questions you'd like to find out, give VIP a call. I'm sure they'll be very happy to meet you in person or talk over the phone, whatever that you need. It is important, and make that plan. Before we go, any last words of advice that you may want to give somebody, something that that you always talk about and you always try to tell people? What would you say?
I would say always try to communicate with your loved one about their wishes, because if they become so ill that they can't communicate their own wishes, at least the actions you take are going to be what that they wanted. And that is the most important thing, is to talk about the hard topics and try to be proactive. In the worst case scenarios, when families do not take action to be proactive, the state of Florida will have to step in some cases. That is so preventable. Prevent it with power of attorney, healthcare surrogate. Pay a little to get the good advice that will save you thousands in the end.
Yeah, that's very good advice. I imagine you see that quite often, right? Because if that's the big thing you're telling everybody, it must come around to your plate quite a bit.
Yeah, and I have one other warning that is dear to my heart, and it happened again today. I feel very strongly that a person should not hire a private caregiver that is not supervised and affiliated with a licensed agency or registry. All of the exploitation that I deal with is coming from neighbors and family caregivers.
People that they find maybe an ad in the newspaper, right? Or off the street, or a word of mouth, or I know this person, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly. The case I'm dealing with today, the preacher brought a homeless person into this client's home, and now that homeless person is no longer homeless, but they've taken over the entire finances, and this is a big money situation. Please pay the few dollars more to hire real legitimate people.
People that are supervised, people that are licensed
accountable,
and been vetted, and for background checks and fingerprint checks and all of that. Yeah,
Absolutely.
You're right. You see it in the newspaper all the time, that people are being exploited and taken advantage of, and it's not a good thing, and very preventable. So yeah, very, very good advice. So thank you guys again for being here. Love talking with you.
Thank you.
Thank you for showing everybody how life can be better for their loved one when times get tough. And thank you all for joining us today. Don't forget to call Art and Course. Get your free 36-hour day book, 888-478-2410. Give them a call. They'll be happy to mail a book right to you. It's an awesome book that I recommend highly. We will be back next week, same time, same place. If you catch us on the internet, it's at caregiversolutions.info, or you can download the iHeartRadio app on your smartphone, and you can listen to us anywhere that you are. So every week we have wonderful guests like Sonia and Shelby coming from VIP, and others that are here for you. So you're not alone. You don't have to do it by yourself. There's a lot of support. Caregiving is a really tough job, and nobody knows better than caregivers who have been walking this path. So please tell others about our program and join us next week, and we'll have some more wonderful news for you, and you'll be glad that you did. So we are going to have a lot of people in the coming weeks. We have had an elder law attorney just last week, care management this week. In coming up, we have an author who has written a book, and she tells a lot of stories. And I think that just with your stories that you shared with us, and yours too, Shelby, I think people really can identify with stories. And I think stories, which, you know, I have a lot myself, being in the industry for 18 years, and I'll be talking to a caregiver, and all of a sudden something that they'll say just pops a story into my mind, and it's true real life stories. And some of them are happy stories, like yours, and some of them are sad stories, you know, like yours.
Right.
But either way, they're stories, and they're true. And we tell those stories here because we want to share the reality of caregiving. So thank you so very much. We're out of time, got to go. But tune in next week, same time, same place, for more Caregiver Solutions info. In the meantime, don't forget, give somebody a hug because they need it, and so do you. Take care.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Caregiver Solutions with Marcia Teal. Join us next week as Marcia, who has 15 years of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care experience, brings you more needed information to help with the care of your loved one. This show can be seen again on caregiversolutions.info, and questions can be left on the site, which may be used on the program to help others. See you next week for more Caregiver Solutions. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were